The morning light on Kepler Station always looked different to Liana, while other humans complained about the artificial glow that replaced real sunlight. She found beauty in how it painted the metal walls in soft colors. Today, like every day for the past 6 months, she walked through the busy corridors with a smile that made even the grumpiest aliens nod back at her. Hannah was only 16, but she moved through the station like she belonged there. Her job at the Cultural Exchange Center was supposed to be simple: help different species understand each other, translate basic words, keep the peace during meetings. But Hannah did much more than that. She stopped at the small cafe where Blick, a tall blue creature with 4 arms, served morning drinks. Blick came from a planet where his people communicated through color changes in their skin. Most humans found this confusing. Hannah had spent weeks learning to read the subtle shifts that meant different emotions. "Good morning, Blick," she said, watching as his skin shifted to warm yellow patterns. Happy to see her. "Morning, small human," Hannah Blick replied in his careful basic, the usual drink. "Please." She waited as he prepared her favorite, a sweet mixture that tasted like earth strawberries, mixed with something that had no name in any human language. 3 young aliens sat at a corner table. 2 were Keth, with their large eyes and thin bodies. The third was a Torvin child, barely old enough to be away from his home world. They were struggling with a mathematics problem, their different number systems making simple addition look impossible. Hannah walked over without being asked. This was what got her in trouble, but she could never stop herself from helping. "May I sit?" she asked politely. The Keth children looked at each other, their large eyes blinking in sequence. This meant they were thinking together, sharing thoughts in a way humans could not. The Torvin child just nodded, his small tusks making his smile look fierce, even though Hannah knew he was gentle. "We cannot make the numbers work," said one of the Keth children, named Vel. "Our math and his math are different. Teacher says, find common way, but we are stuck." Hannah looked at their work. The Keth used base 8 counting because they had 4 fingers on each hand. Torvin used base 12 because his people counted, using their tusks and fingers together. Most of the galaxy used base 10 like humans, but these children needed to understand each other, not just follow the standard. "Look," Hannah said, pulling out her tablet. "Math is like music. It's different instruments, same song." She showed them how human binary code worked. It's 1s and 0s, but able to create anything. Then she helped them find the patterns that were the same in all 3 systems. Within an hour, the children were laughing and solving problems together. This was what the council called cultural contamination. Hannah did not know that Council Inspector Vector had been watching her for 3 days. She did not know that her simple act of helping children learn was being recorded as evidence of human interference in galactic education standards. The council believed that each species should develop at its own pace. They had rules about sharing knowledge between races. These rules kept the older, more powerful species in control. Young races, like humanity, were supposed to stay quiet and follow orders. But humans did not follow orders well. Hannah followed them. Worst of all, her friend Park Minho found her in the station's observation deck during lunch break. Minho worked as an engineer, fixing the systems that kept Kepler Station running. He was 22, serious, and worried about Hannah constantly. "You were teaching the Keth children again," he said, sitting beside her as they looked out at the stars. "They needed help," Hannah replied simply. "The council has inspectors on the station. Everyone knows this. Why do you keep taking risks?" Hannah was quiet for a moment. She watched a transport ship dock at the station, bringing more aliens from across the galaxy. Kepler Station was supposed to be neutral ground, where all species could meet safely. "Do you remember when we first came here?" she asked. 6 months ago. I was scared of everything." The Blick people looked so strange. The Keth children seemed so serious. The Torvin adults were always growling. Minho nodded. He remembered. But they were scared too, Hannah continued. Scared of us. Everyone was scared of everyone. Now look. She pointed to the docking bay where human workers helped alien visitors with their luggage. A Cathedral was sharing lunch with a human merchant. 2 Torvan children were playing a game with human kids. This is how it should be, she said. People helping people. It does not matter what planet we come from. The Council does not see it that way. The Council is wrong. Those words would be remembered later, when the reports were filed, and the judgments were made, and the sentence was carried out. That afternoon, Council enforcers arrived on Kepler Station. They wore heavy armor that made them look bigger than they were. Their leader, Commander Zekmore, was a Vorth, one of the species that had founded the Council thousands of years ago. He believed that the galaxy belonged to races like his, not to newcomers like humans. The arrest was public. They came for Hannah while she was helping at the cultural center, explaining to a group of mixed-species teenagers why humans hugged to show friendship, while other species had different ways of showing they cared. Lee Hanna of Earth, Commander Zekmore announced, his voice carrying through the station's communication system. You are charged with cultural contamination, unauthorized education transfer, in violation of the Species Development Protection Act. The teenagers around her stepped back. Some were scared. Others looked confused. Hannah just stood there, still holding the tablet she had been using to show different greeting customs. I was just teaching them about friendship, she said, quietly. That is the crime, Zekmore replied. The trial was held immediately. Council law was fast and simple. 3 judges, no jury, no appeal. The evidence was clear. Hannah had shared human knowledge with other species. She had encouraged them to work together instead of staying separate. She had violated the natural order that kept the galaxy stable. Park Minho tried to speak for her. Other humans on the station submitted character statements. Even some of the aliens she had helped ask to testify on her behalf. None of it mattered. The sentence is death, announced the lead judge, to be carried out immediately as an example to all species. The natural development of galactic races must be protected. That made her execution public, broadcast across the galaxy. Lesson. For anyone who thought the old rules could be changed, Hannah stood in the center of the station's main plaza. Hundreds of beings watched. Some were there by choice, others were forced to attend. The children she had helped were crying. Commander Zekmore raised his weapon. Any last words, human? Hannah looked around at all the faces watching her. Humans and aliens, adults and children, friends and strangers. Her voice was clear and strong when she spoke. I just wanted everyone to be friends. The energy blast was quick. Hannah fell without pain. Her smile was the last thing many witnesses remembered. Within minutes, the news reached every human colony in the galaxy. A 16-year-old girl, guilty only of kindness, had been murdered for teaching alien children that friendship was possible, the council thought. They had sent a message about power and control. They had no idea what message humanity received. The news reached Earth in 4 hours and 17 minutes. President Kim Soo-jin was having breakfast with her family when her security chief burst into her private dining room. His face was white with shock and anger. Madam President, we have a situation. Kim Soo-jin had been Earth's leader for 3 years. She had handled wars, natural disasters, and first contact with dozens of alien species. But when she saw the video of Lee Hanna's execution, her coffee cup slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. They killed a child, she whispered. They killed a human child for being kind. The video was everywhere within an hour. Every human colony, every space station, every ship in the void received the same footage. Hannah standing in the plaza. Her last words about friendship. The energy blast that ended her life. The reaction was immediate and terrifying. on Mars colony. Workers walked out of the terraforming plants. On Europa Station, miners refused to process materials bound for Council worlds. On the Generation ship, new soul families who had never met Hannah wept for her as if she were their own daughter. But it was not just sadness. It was rage. A cold, quiet rage that made even veteran diplomats step back from human representatives. Admiral Cho Usong commanded Earth's deep space fleet from his headquarters on Luna Base. He was a career soldier, .com and professional. But when President Kim called him with new orders, his voice carried an edge that his staff had never heard before. Admiral, you now have unlimited authority over all military assets, Kim told him during their secure video call. Budget is no concern. Restrictions are lifted. I want options. What kind of options, Madame President? Kim Soo-jin's eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady as steel. All of them. Within 6 hours, every human military base in the galaxy went to maximum alert. Ships that had been in maintenance were rushed back to surface. Reserves were called up. Scientists and engineers received priority travel orders to classified locations. The Council noticed, of course, but they misunderstood what they were seeing. The humans are angry, Council Prime Vector told his advisors during an emergency session. This is expected. Young species always react emotionally to discipline. They will make threats, impose some trade sanctions, then accept the lesson we have taught them. The other council members agreed. Humans were still new to galactic politics. They would rant and complain, but they lacked the power to challenge the established order. The council had destroyed entire civilizations before. What could one young species do? They would learn. Dr. Yang Jesu had been Hannah's teacher before the girl left for Kepler Station. She was Earth's leading expert on alien biology and psychology. When she watched the execution video, she did not cry. She did not scream. She went to her laboratory and began working. Doctor, what are your orders? Her research team asked when they arrived at the lab. Yang Jesu looked up from her computer. Her eyes were bright with terrible purpose. We are going to learn everything, every species in the council. How they think, how they live, how they die, everything. They'll take years of research. We have 6 months. Impossible. Hannah believed impossible things could happen if people worked together. Yang Jisoo turned back to her computer. Today, we prove she was right. The project that followed broke every rule about research, ethics, and scientific method. Teams of scientists worked around the clock, analyzing decades of contact data, medical scans, psychological profiles, and cultural studies. Information that had been collected for peaceful purposes was suddenly viewed through the lens of war. Meanwhile, something strange began happening across human space. Trade routes changed overnight. Human merchants stopped visiting council worlds. Diplomatic meetings were canceled. Cultural exchange programs were suspended. The council thought this was just hurt feelings. They did not understand that every human withdrawal was planned. Every canceled meeting freed up resources. Every closed trade route allowed ships and personnel to be redirected to secret projects. On the mining world of New Busan, engineer Park Min-ho received orders to return to Earth immediately. He had been Hannah's friend, one of the last people to speak with her before her arrest. Now he was needed for something called Project Remembrance. The transport that picked him up was not alone. Hundreds of humans were being recalled from across the galaxy. Scientists, soldiers, engineers, doctors, teachers. All of them had one thing in common. They had all lost someone they cared about to Council Justice, Dr. Nam. Hyok ran Earth's Institute for Theoretical Physics. He was known throughout human space as a dreamer, always working on impossible projects that might work someday. Admiral Cho visited his laboratory. Nam was surprised by the request. I need you to make science fiction into science fact, Cho told him. faster than light communication, instant transportation, weapons that can destroy planets. Whatever you need, you get. Admiral, some of these theories are decades away from practical application. You have 6 months. That is impossible. Cho leaned forward. Doctor, did you watch the video? Nam nodded silently. That girl died because she believed different species could be friends. The council killed her for teaching alien children mathematics. Mathematics, Dr. Ataya, they executed a child for sharing knowledge. Cho's voice was quiet, but filled with promise. In 6 months, we are going to show them what humans do when someone hurts our children. Nam Hayek understood. Okay, what do you need? Everything. Quantum tunneling, neural manipulation, biological warfare, energy weapons that make stars look like candles. I want technology that will make the council species wet themselves in fear. The work began immediately. Research facilities across human space were connected by quantum communication networks. Scientists shared data in real time across thousands of light years. Projects that should have taken decades were compressed into months through pure determination and unlimited resources. Captain Lee Junho arrived on Earth 3 days after his sister's execution. He was career military, special forces, trained for the most dangerous missions humanity could imagine. When he reported to Admiral Cho, his request was simple. I want to kill the alien who murdered my sister. That is not enough, Cho replied. Commander Zekmore will die, but not quickly. First, he is going to watch his entire civilization fall. Then, he is going to understand what it means to take family from humans. What do you need me to do? It's the most dangerous job in the fleet. Deep reconnaissance behind enemy lines. You will be alone, outnumbered, and surrounded by species that want all humans dead. Your mission is to plant quantum beacons in council space. When we attack, those beacons will coordinate our strikes. Junho accepted without hesitation. When do I leave? Tomorrow. You will not return until this is over. And if I do not return at all, Admiral Cho's smile was cold as space itself. Okay, then your sister will be avenged anyway. As the weeks passed, the council began to notice changes. Human ships were seen in systems they had never visited before. Strange energy readings were detected near council worlds. Communication networks experienced mysterious disruptions, but whenever council forces investigated, they found nothing. The humans were ghosts, moving through space without leaving traces. President Kim Soo-jin addressed the United Earth Assembly for months after Hannah's death. Her speech was broadcast to every human settlement in the galaxy. She stood at the podium, where she had announced humanity's entry into galactic civilization 6 years earlier. Today, her message was different. My fellow humans, we joined the galactic community with hope in our hearts. We believed that different species could work together, learn from each other, and build something beautiful among the stars. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Lee Hannah believed that too. She died for believing it. The assembly was silent. 5 billion humans listened across known space. The council thinks they have taught us a lesson about our place in the galaxy. They believe we will accept their judgment and submit to their authority. Kim's voice grew stronger. They are wrong. Today, I announce that Earth formally withdraws from all council treaties. We reject their authority. We deny their right to judge us. She stepped closer to the camera. And to those who killed our daughter, who murdered a child for the crime of kindness, know this: humanity is coming. We will not send warnings. We will not offer terms. We will not show mercy to those who show none to children. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, council species felt a chill they could not explain. The storm was gathering. Soon it would break. 6 months had passed since Lee Hannah died on Kepler Station. The council believed the crisis was over. Human trade ships had returned to normal routes. Diplomatic meetings resumed with polite, if cold, human representatives. The galaxy seemed to have returned to its natural order. Council Prime Victor congratulated himself during the morning briefing on his home world. The humans have learned their lesson, he told his advisors. They made their angry speeches, held their memorial services, and now they accept reality. This is how young species grow up. The other council members agreed. Intelligence reports showed human military activity had decreased to normal levels. Their ships followed standard patrol patterns. Their colonies focused on internal development rather than expansion. Everything appeared calm. They were completely wrong, deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon. Dr. Nam Hyok stood in a laboratory that did not officially exist. Around him, machines hummed with power that made nearby space stations look like toys. The quantum field generators alone consumed more energy than most planets used in a year. Status report, he said to his team of 300 scientists. Quantum tunnel drives are ready for final testing, reported Dr. Kim Tyan, his lead engineer. We can move a fleet from Earth to the Andromeda sector in minutes instead of months. Biological weapons. Dr. Yang's team has finished the neural disruptors. Each one is designed for specific alien brain chemistry. The Vorth will experience complete motor function loss. The Keth will lose their telepathic links. Torvin will fall into permanent sleep. Nam nodded grimly. Hannah had loved learning about how different species thought and communicated. Her research notes were being used to destroy those same abilities. Planetary weapons, ready. The Starkiller missiles can destroy entire solar systems. The atmosphere processors can make any world uninhabitable within hours. The gravity bombs can crush cities to dust. Nam Hyok looked at the displays showing their weapons inventory. Humanity had built enough firepower to destroy 1,000 civilizations. All of it created in 6 months using technology that should not have existed for centuries. And the neural reconditioning systems. Those are ready too, said Dr. Park Sun-hee from the medical team. We can rewrite the basic personality patterns of any species. Remove aggression. Eliminate racial hatred. Install whatever behavioral patterns we choose. Good. Begin loading everything onto the quantum tunnel ships. Maro Cho wants to start deployment in 72 hours. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Jun-ho crouched in the shadows of a council military base on the planet Vorthok Prime. He had been behind enemy lines for 5 months, moving from world to world like a ghost. Aliens never saw him coming and never knew he had been there. His mission was simple but deadly dangerous. Plant quantum beacons on every major council world. These beacons would guide human attacks with perfect precision. One mistake, one moment of carelessness, and he would be captured. The council would learn about humanity's plans, but Jun-ho was not careless. He was his sister's brother, trained by the best military minds Earth had ever produced. And he was angry, cold, patient, careful anger that made him nearly invisible to alien security systems. The beacon he placed on Vorthok Prime was no bigger than his thumb. It buried itself deep in the planet's crust and began transmitting data about military installations, population centers, and government facilities. When the attack came, human forces would know exactly where to strike. Beacon 47 is active, he whispered into his quantum communicator. Moving to next target. On Earth, Admiral Cho Woo-san received the report in his command center. Its massive display showed the galaxy with tiny lights marking each planted beacon. 47 lights glowed across council space. Only 3 targets remained. Excellent work, Captain, Cho replied. Complete your mission and return home. Your sister will be proud. The Admiral turned to his staff officers. They were the best military minds humanity had produced, gathered from across known space for this one purpose. Colonel Kang Mai-rei stood at his right hand, her cybernetic enhancements glowing softly in the dim light. Fleet status. Cho asked. All ships are loaded and ready, Mare reported. We have 5,000 vessels equipped with quantum tunnel drives. Each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a planet. The crews are trained and motivated. Personnel readiness. Every soldier has undergone genetic enhancement and neural conditioning. They are faster, stronger, and smarter than baseline humans. More importantly, they all remember why we are doing this. Cho nodded. Each human warrior carried a small device that played Hannah's last words. I just wanted everyone to be friends. Those words have become humanity's battle cry. Dr. Yang, what is the status of the biological weapons? Doctor. Yang Jisoo looked up from her tablet. She had aged 10 years in 6 months, working around the clock to perfect weapons of unimaginable horror. All species-specific viruses are ready. We can eliminate any council race without harming the others, or we can eliminate them all at once. Lean the neural reconditioning. Ready? We can reprogram entire populations to be peaceful, cooperative, and obedient. They will remember their past, but be unable to repeat their mistakes. Time frame 4. Total implementation. Once we control the council worlds, 48 hours to reprogram every adult member of every species. Admiral Cho walked to the large window that showed Earth hanging in space. It looked peaceful from here. It's beautiful and blue and innocent. It's hard to believe that this quiet world had just become the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. Communications, open a channel to President Kim. Channel open, sir. President Kim Soo-jin appeared on the main screen. She was in her office, working late, as always. Behind her hung a picture of Lee Hannah smiling at the camera, taken during her last visit to Earth. Admiral, are we ready? Yes, Madam President. All systems are operational. All personnel are in position. We can begin the operation at your command. Kim was quiet for a long moment. Do you really think this is what she would have wanted? Cho considered the question carefully. No, Madam President. Hannah would have wanted everyone to be friends. She would have preferred peace and understanding. But the council chose to kill her instead of listen to her. Now they will learn what happens when you murder human children. And after, when this is over, then we will build the galaxy Hannah dreamed of, where different species can be friends, where children can learn from each other without fear, where kindness is rewarded instead of punished. Kim nodded slowly. Do it. Began Operation Remembrance. Across human space, the final preparations began. Ships that had been hidden in dark space for months powered up their engines. Soldiers who had trained in secret activated their weapons. Scientists who had worked in hidden laboratories prepared their most terrible creations. But the most important preparation was happening in the hearts and minds of every human involved. They all remembered the video. The young girl standing alone in the plaza, her last words about friendship. The energy blast that ended her life. The council had killed Lee Hannah to send a message about power and control. They had succeeded in sending a message, but the message humanity received was different than what the council intended. The message was simple. When you hurt human children, humans hurt you back. In 3 days, the galaxy would learn what that meant. On the planet Vorthok Prime, Commander Zek Moore was enjoying his evening meal when his aide brought him a routine security report. Nothing unusual to report. All systems normal. No sign of human activity in council space. Zekmore said, dismissing the aide. The humans know their place now. He did not know that a quantum beacon sat 30 meters beneath his feet, sending detailed scans of his exact location to human forces gathering in dark space. He did not know that his personal routine, his daily schedule, and his security arrangements had been studied and analyzed by Earth's military computers. He did not know that Captain Lee Junho had spent 3 hours in his house the previous week, learning the layout and memorizing every room. The captain had left behind several small devices that would ensure Zach Moore could not escape when the time came. Most importantly, Zach Moore did not know that in 72 hours, he would come face to face with the brother of the girl he had murdered, and Lee Jun-ho would have questions about why the commander thought it was acceptable to kill human children. The commander finished his meal and went to sleep, confident in the power of the council and the natural order of the galaxy. It was the last peaceful sleep any council member would have for a very long time. The attack began at exactly 0300 Galactic Standard Time across 847 council worlds simultaneously. There was no warning, no declaration of war, no final ultimatum. One moment, the galaxy slept peacefully. The next moment, human fleets materialized from quantum tunnels above every major council planet on Vorthok Prime. Commander Zach Moore woke to alarms, screaming throughout his military compound. He stumbled from his bed, still confused by sleep, and looked out his window. The sky was full of human ships, thousands of them, king in space like deadly stars. His communication device buzzed with the panicked reports from across the planet. Sir, human forces have appeared over all major cities. Our defense fleets are being destroyed. They are not responding to surrender signals. Zach Moore's blood turned cold. How many ships? We count over 2,000 vessels just in our sector. Sir, each one is bigger than our largest dreadnought. They have weapons we have never seen before. The commander ran to his command center, but the building shook as explosions lit up the night sky. Through the smoke and fire, he could see human soldiers landing in the compound courtyard. They moved with impossible speed and precision, their armor glowing with energy fields that turned aside plasma bolts like they were raindrops. This is impossible, Zach Moore whispered. Humans do not have this technology. They are a young species. They cannot fight the council, but they were fighting. And they were winning. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out on every council world. Admiral Cho Woo-sung commanded the assault from his flagship, the Remembrance, orbiting Earth. Holographic displays showed him the progress of Operation Remembrance in real time. Each council world appeared as a glowing dot that turned from red to blue as human forces secured it. Port, Cho ordered. Colonel Kong Mai stood beside him, her enhancements allowing her to process data from 1,000 battlefields at once. Phase 1 is complete, sir. All council defense fleets have been neutralized. We suffered 0 casualties. Enemy casualties are minimal due to the use of neural disruptors instead of conventional weapons. Phase 2, planetary occupation, is proceeding ahead of schedule. Our soldiers are securing government buildings, military bases, and communication centers. The biological weapons are being deployed in major population centers. Civilian casualties? None, sir. The neural disruptors render targets unconscious but cause no permanent harm. The biological weapons shut down higher brain functions without killing. As ordered, we are preserving enemy populations for neural reconditioning. Cho nodded grimly. This was not a war of extermination. It was a war of transformation. The council species would survive, but they would be changed forever. On the planet Cathora, Dr. Yang Jisu personally oversaw the deployment of species-specific biological agents. The Keth people had lived in telepathic harmony for thousands of years, sharing thoughts and emotions across their entire civilization. It was beautiful, but it also made them arrogant. They believed their mental unity made them superior to other species. The biological weapon Yang had created was elegant in its cruelty. It did not harm the Keth physically. Instead, it severed their telepathic connections, leaving each individual alone in their own mind for the first time in their lives. The deployment is complete, reported her field assistant, Dr. Lee Min-seok. The entire population is affected. They cannot communicate telepathically anymore. Yang watched through her laboratory window as Keth individuals wandered through their cities in confusion. Some were crying, others sat in stunned silence. All of them were experiencing true individuality for the first time. Began the neural reconditioning process, Yang ordered. When they wake up, they will understand what it means to be alone. They will value individual life, okay? They will never again believe that group thinking justifies hurting others. Meanwhile, Captain Lee Junho had a personal mission. While human forces secured the planet, he made his way through the chaos to Commander Zekmor's compound. Kia, the alien security forces, could not stop him. Kia's enhanced reflexes and advanced armor made him nearly invincible. He found Zekmor hiding in an underground bunker surrounded by his personal guards. The Vorth commander was trying to send a distress signal to other council worlds, not knowing that every council world was already under attack. Commander Zekmor Junho called out as he entered the bunker. His voice carried through the room. Like thunder, the alien guards raised their weapons, but Junho was faster. His plasma rifle fired 6 times in less than a second. The guards fell unconscious, their nervous systems overloaded by neural disruptors. Zekmor stared at the human soldier in terror. "You cannot do this. The council will never surrender. We will fight you across the galaxy." "The council no longer exists," Junho replied calmly. "Every council world is under human control. Your fleets are destroyed. Your governments are captured. Your people are being reprogrammed. We are going to fix you. Remove your capacity for cruelty. Eliminate your ability to hurt children. When we are done, you will be incapable of the violence that brought you here." Zekmor's eyes widened with horror. "You cannot change our minds. You cannot alter our thoughts. That is the ultimate violation." Junho stepped closer. "Do you remember Lee Hannah, the human girl you executed on Kepler Station? 16 years old, guilty of teaching alien children mathematics. You killed her for being kind." Recognition dawned in Zekmor's eyes. The cultural contamination case. She was spreading human influence among other species. "She was my sister," the Lords hung in the air like a death sentence. Zekmor realized he was facing not just a human soldier, but the brother of the girl whose death had started this war. "I was following orders," Zekmor said desperately. "The council decreed that she must die. I had no choice." "There is always a choice," Junho replied. "You chose to pull the trigger. You chose to kill the child. You chose to broadcast her execution across the galaxy as a warning. What do you want from me?" Junho attached a neural collar to Zekmor's neck. The device began scanning the alien's brain patterns, preparing to rewrite his basic personality structure. "I want you to live," Junho said. "I want you to remember what you did, but I want you to understand why it was wrong. When this device finishes its work, you will be incapable of harming children. You will feel physical pain if you even think about hurting innocents. You will spend the rest of your life trying to make up for what you did to my sister. That is worse than death. Yes, it is." The neural reconditioning process began. Zekmor screamed as his mind was carefully taken apart and rebuilt. When it was over, he would still be himself, but he would be a better version of himself. One that could never again justify murdering children. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on every council world. Government leaders, military commanders, and ordinary citizens all underwent the same process. Their memories remained intact, but their capacity for cruelty was removed. Their ability to rationalize violence against the innocent was eliminated. Admiral Cho received the final reports 48 hours after the attack began. "Sir, all council worlds are secure. All enemy forces have surrendered or been neutralized. The neural reconditioning process is complete. Casualties: Human casualties, 0. Council casualties, 0 deaths, though approximately 40% of all council species have undergone personality modification. Resistance, minimal and decreasing. Most council populations are adapting well to their new mental programming. They seem confused about why they ever thought violence was acceptable. Cho nodded. The hardest part was over. Now came the real work of building something better. On Kepler Station, where this all began, human engineers were constructing a memorial to Lee Hanna. The plaza where she died was being transformed into a garden where children of all species could come to learn and play together. Park Min-ho, Hannah's old friend, supervised the construction. Make sure the flowers can grow in any atmosphere, he told the workers. Hannah wanted everyone to feel welcome here. The memorial would have a simple inscription. Lee Hanna believed that different species could be friends. Today, her dream came true, but the cost of that dream was written in the reprogrammed minds of billions of aliens who would never again be capable of the cruelty that had killed her. The galaxy was about to learn what peace looked like when it was enforced by humanity's love for its children. 1 year after the war that lasted 48 hours, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The Galactic Council was gone, replaced by the Terran Concordat. The old system of fear and control had been swept away like dust before a storm. In its place grew something that had never existed before. Its true peace between the stars. President Kim Soo-jin stood in the gardens of what was once the Council's primary world. The planet had been renamed New Harmony, and its capital city was being rebuilt as a center of learning and cooperation. Where once stood monuments to conquest and dominance, now grew flowers from 100 different worlds, each one thriving in carefully designed environments. The ceremony will begin in 1 hour, Madam President. Her aide informed her. Kim nodded, looking out at the crowds gathering for the dedication. Humans walked beside Vorth, their former enemies, now peaceful and eager to help. Keth children played with Torvin youngsters, their different ways of thinking, creating new games that delighted them all. Former council enforcers worked as teachers and caretakers, their programming making them gentle protectors of the young. As Admiral Cho arrived, Kim asked, "Yes, Madam President." He is touring the Lee Hanna Memorial Academy with Dr. Yang. The academy was the crown jewel of New Harmony. Built on the exact spot where the old council chambers had stood, it welcomed students from every species in the galaxy. The building itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, designed by teams that included both human architects and aliens, whose creativity had been freed by their neural reconditioning. Dr. Yang Jisoo walked through the academy's halls with a mixture of pride and sadness. The walls were lined with artwork created by students working together. A Vorth child had painted a landscape, while a human girl added mathematical equations that turned the painting into a lesson about planetary physics. Ket students had composed music that could only be fully appreciated when heard by multiple species at once. "This is what she wanted," Yang said to Admiral Cho as they paused before a statue of Lee Hanna. The sculpture showed her as she was in life, young, smiling, reaching out her hand in friendship. "Yes," Cho agreed, "but I wonder if she would approve of how we achieved it." Yang considered this carefully. The neural reconditioning had been necessary, but it troubled her sometimes. The former council species were happy now, peaceful and cooperative, but they had not chosen to become better people. Humanity had forced that choice upon them. She was a teacher, Yang finally said. Teachers sometimes have to make hard decisions for the good of their students. The council species were like children playing with dangerous weapons. We took the weapons away and taught them better games. In another part of the academy, Park Min-ho was setting up equipment for the dedication ceremony. He had become the academy's head of engineering, designing learning tools that could adapt to any species' needs. Today's ceremony would be broadcast across the galaxy, showing everyone what the new order looked like. "Get Mr. Park," called a small voice behind him. He turned to see Vel, one of the Keth's children that Hannah had helped on Kepler Station. The child was older now, but still as curious as ever. "Lo, Vel, are you ready for today's ceremony?" "Yes, sir, but I have a question." "What is it?" "My parents say that before the humans came, Keth, people could share thoughts with each other. They say it was beautiful, but also made us think we were better than other species. Is that true?" Min-Ho knelt down to meet the child's eyes. This was always the hardest question. How do you explain to children that their parents had been fundamentally changed? "It is true," he said gently. "Your people were connected in a way that was special. Okay, but sometimes special abilities can make people forget that others are important too. The humans helped your parents remember that every person matters, whether they can share thoughts or not." "Do you think my parents are sad about losing their telepathy?" "Ask them. They will tell you honestly." Vel nodded and ran off to find his parents. Min-Ho watched him go, hoping the child would understand. The neural reconditioning had left all the former council species with complete memories of their past. They remembered their old abilities and their old ways of thinking, but they could no longer access the arrogance and cruelty that had once defined them across the galaxy. Similar conversations were happening every day. Children asked questions about the time before humans took control. Parents explained as best they could why the old ways had been wrong and why the new ways were better. On the former planet Vorthok Prime, it's now called Haven, Commander Zekmor worked as a counselor at a center for traumatized children. His neural reconditioning had been particularly thorough. He could remember executing Lehanna, but the memory caused him physical pain. He could remember believing that humans were inferior, but that thought pattern was no longer possible for his rewired brain. Commander Zekmor called one of his young clients, a Torvan girl whose parents had died in the old wars between council species. "Yes, little one. Why do you look sad when you work with us?" Zekmor knelt beside her, his large frame making him seem less threatening. "I am sad because I remember hurting children once. I can never do that again, but I remember that I did it. So I try to help children now to make up for my mistakes." "You hurt children?" The girl seemed shocked. In a post-reconditioning world, adults who hurt children were almost mythical figures. "Yes, it was wrong. It was programmed to be better. But I still remember being worse. I am glad you are better now. So am I, little one. So am I." The dedication ceremony began at sunset, when New Harmony's twin suns painted the sky in colors that reminded everyone of hope. President Kim Soo-jin stood at the podium before a crowd of millions, with billions more watching across the galaxy. "Today, we dedicate the Lehanna Memorial Academy," she began, her voice carrying across the plaza where a human girl had died for teaching friendship. 1 year ago, the Galactic Council executed a child for the crime of kindness. They thought they were teaching humanity about power and control. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. They were right about one thing. They did teach us about power. They taught us that real power is not the ability to destroy your enemies. Real power is the ability to transform them into friends. Kim gestured to the academy behind her, where the lights of 1,000 classrooms showed students from dozens of species learning together. Lehanna believed that different species could understand each other, help each other, and grow together. The council killed her for that belief. But today, her dream is a reality across 847 worlds. In the audience, Captain Lee Jun-ho stood with his wife and their newborn daughter. He had named her Hannah after his sister. The baby would grow up in a galaxy where her aunt's dream was the law of the land. "Some of you remember the time before," Kim continued, looking directly at the former council species in the crowd. You remember when fear and hatred seemed normal? You remember when violence was the answer to disagreement? You cannot think those thoughts anymore, and you are better for it. Fourth in the audience nodded, tears streaming down his face. He remembered commanding warships that had destroyed entire colonies. Now he taught art to children and found joy in their laughter. We did not change your minds to punish you, Kim said. We changed them to free you. Free you from the prison of hatred that the old council system had built around your thoughts. Free you to become the people you were always meant to be. Dr. Yang Jisoo stepped forward to speak next. She looked older than her years, worn down by the moral weight of what she had done. Lee Hannah was my student, she said simply. She asked questions that had no easy answers. Why do species fear each other? Why do the strong hurt the weak? Why can't everyone just be friends? Yang paused, looking up at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. We found the answers to her questions in the worst possible way. Species fear each other because they are taught to fear. Strong hurt the weak because no one stops them. Everyone cannot be friends because some people choose to be enemies. The crowd listened intently as Yang's voice grew stronger. So we stopped teaching fear. We prevented the strong from hurting the weak. We removed the ability to choose hatred over friendship. The galaxy Lee Hannah dreamed of now exists because we made it impossible for it not to exist. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all those who had died in the old wars between species. Then children from every world in the Concordat released glowing lanterns into the night sky. Each lantern carried a message of hope written in the language of a different species. As the lights rose toward the stars, President Kim spoke the final words of the ceremony. Lee Hannah believed that impossible things could happen if people worked together. She was right. Today, we live in her impossible dream. Tomorrow, we will make it even better. The crowd dispersed slowly, reluctant to end this moment of perfect unity. Former enemies walked home together, their children playing games that combined traditions from multiple worlds. The galaxy that had once been ruled by fear and division now lived in the peace that only enforced kindness could create in the Academy's memorial garden. A simple plaque bore Lee Hannah's final words. I just wanted everyone to be friends. Below that, in smaller text, was humanity's response. Your wish is our command.